Ready to explore the world of your own mind? We're diving deep into Eric Robertson's Control Your Mind and Master Your Feelings.
It's a really practical guide
Yeah.
to understanding and managing your emotions.
Exactly. And we're going to be extracting like all those golden nuggets,
Yeah, all
those
the
little pieces of wisdom
the tools
that can make a difference in our lives.
Yeah, break free from overthinking, harness the power of your emotions, and even navigate those tricky relationships with difficult people.
Okay, so let's unpack this. A lot of us struggle with overthinking, right? But the book starts by saying that we need to understand the difference between overthinking and anxiety. So why is that distinction so important?
Well, Robertson argues that they're connected but distinct.
Okay.
Worry is that mental loop
Yeah.
of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios
Yeah.
that plays in your head.
Uh-huh.
Anxiety is what happens in your body as a result.
Okay.
The racing heart, the tense muscles, that feeling of being on edge.
Uh-huh.
It's like the difference between thinking about going for a run and actually hitting the pavement.
So it's not just about calming our thoughts, but understanding how those thoughts are impacting our physical state as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he gives some relatable examples of overthinking, like replaying past mistakes over and over or catastrophizing about the future.
Mhm.
Have you ever caught yourself doing that?
Oh, absolutely, especially the catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Like, my brain automatically jumps to the worst case scenario.
Right.
The book calls these thought patterns cognitive distortions.
Yeah.
So what are those?
They're like mental shortcuts our brains take, but they often lead us down a path of negativity.
Okay.
One that really resonates with me is personalization.
Mm-hmm.
It's that tendency to blame ourselves for things that are outside of our control.
Oh.
For example, let's say a project at work fails and you automatically think, it's all my fault, even
Yeah.
though you were just one part of a team.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I take on the weight of the world like it's all my fault.
Yeah.
So how do we break free from these distortions?
Robertson suggests becoming aware of them.
Okay.
When you notice yourself spiraling into negativity, pause and ask yourself, is this thought really true? What's the evidence?
Mm-hmm.
Often you'll find that your thoughts are more dramatic than the reality of the situation.
That's really helpful. It's like we're fact-checking our own thoughts before they take over.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And what's fascinating is that overthinking doesn't just affect our mental well-being.
Right?
Robertson explains how it can impact the structure of our brains, particularly the limbic system.
A limbic system, remind me what that is again.
It's the emotional control centers of our brains.
Okay.
It's where our fear and anxiety responses originate.
Mm-hmm.
Chronic stress from overthinking can actually damage this area,
Oh, wow.
making it harder to regulate our emotions and think clearly.
That's scary. It's like constantly flooding your emotional control center with alarm bells.
It is.
Yeah, so we need to tackle overthinking not just for our peace of mind, but for the health of our brains, too.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that our mental and physical health are deeply intertwined.
All right, so overthinking is clearly a problem, but what can we do about it? I know a lot of self-help books tell us to just control our emotions, but Robertson actually challenges that idea, right?
He does. He introduces the concept of sitting with your emotions.
Okay.
It means acknowledging your feelings without judgment,
Mm-hmm.
like a curious observer, to understand them better.
Okay.
Instead of trying to push away those uncomfortable feelings, we allow ourselves to experience them fully.
So this makes sense to me because if you try to ignore a physical pain, it often just gets worse.
Right.
So maybe it's the same with emotional pain.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about becoming aware of the sensations in your body, the thoughts running through your mind, and the urges you might feel.
Mm.
But instead of getting swept away, you simply observe them.
It's a really different approach than what I'm used to, but it sounds really challenging, but also empowering.
Yeah.
It's like we're taking back control by actually facing those feelings head on.
Precisely. It's not about being happy all the time, but about developing a healthier relationship with your emotions.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try that. Now, I have to admit, when I saw a chapter on fear in the book, I was a little hesitant,
Yeah.
but Robertson actually reframes fear in a surprisingly positive light.
He does. He reminds us that fear is a natural human emotion,
Yeah,
and it can actually be beneficial.
beneficial, how so?
Think about it. Fear keeps us safe from danger.
Okay.
It also pushes us to grow and learn. For example, if you're afraid of public speaking,
Mm-hmm.
that fear might motivate you to practice and prepare, which will ultimately make you a better speaker.
That's a great point. It's like fear can be a catalyst for self-improvement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And fear can also lead to new experiences and discoveries. Remember that time you were terrified to go on that roller coaster, but then ended up loving it.
Oh, yeah, I still get butterflies just thinking about it.
See, sometimes those things we're afraid of can lead to the most exhilarating experiences.
Yeah.
Of course, Robertson also acknowledges that fear can be debilitating if it's not managed effectively.
Hmm.
He talks about how it can hold us back from pursuing our goals, taking risks, and living a full life.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledging that fear is natural, but not letting it control us.
Exactly. It's about understanding the message fear is trying to convey, learning from it, and using it as fuel for growth.
This is all so insightful. It's like we're getting a whole new perspective on our emotions.
That's the power of this book.
Yeah.
It challenges our assumptions and encourages us to look at things in a new light.
All right, so we've explored the complexities of overthinking and fear. Now let's get practical. What are some tangible strategies Robertson offers for creating a calmer and more focused mind?
He emphasizes the importance of decluttering.
Decluttering. You mean like cleaning my house?
Yes, but it's more than that. It's about creating a sense of order and peace in your physical environment, which can translate to a calmer mind. He argues that physical clutter often reflects mental clutter.
This is so true. Like whenever my desk is a mess, I feel like my mind is a mess too.
Exactly. So by decluttering your physical space, you're essentially freeing up mental space as well.
So it's like decluttering on two levels.
Yeah.
Both physically and mentally.
Precisely. And he also talks about the power of mindfulness.
Mindfulness, it seems to be everywhere these days. What's Robertson's take on it?
He describes it as the ability to be fully present,
Okay.
aware of where you are and what you're doing, and not overly reactive to what's going on around you. It's like hitting the pause button on the mental chatter, allowing you to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So it's not about emptying your mind, but more about becoming aware of what's going on in there.
Exactly. It's about becoming the observer of your inner experience rather than being swept away by it.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly helpful, but how do we actually practice mindfulness?
He suggests starting with simple exercises, like focusing on your breath,
Okay.
just taking a few minutes each day to consciously breathe and notice the sensations of your breath can have a calming effect on your mind and body.
Okay, that sounds manageable. I can definitely carve out a few minutes for that.
And as you become more comfortable with focusing on your breath, you can start to expand your awareness to other sensations in your body, sounds in your environment, and even your thoughts and emotions.
It's like training our minds to be more present and less reactive.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a sense of awareness that can help us navigate the ups and downs of life with more ease and grace.
This is all so insightful. We've covered so much already.
We have, but we've only just scratched the surface of Robertson's wisdom.
I know there's so much more to explore. Welcome back to our deep dive into control your mind and master your feelings. Last time we talked about the difference between overthinking and anxiety, those sneaky cognitive distortions, and that surprisingly positive side of fear.
We did. We also explored that importance of sitting with our emotions and decluttering both our physical spaces and our minds.
Right, and I have to say, I've been trying that breath-focused mindfulness exercise you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing how just a few minutes of conscious breathing can shift my whole mood. But let's talk about something else. A lot of us struggle with bad habits. Robertson has some really practical advice for breaking free from those patterns.
He does. It all starts with awareness.
Okay.
He encourages us to identify our triggers,
Okay.
those specific situations, emotions, or even times of day that lead us to engage in the habit.
It's like becoming a detective of our own behavior,
Yeah.
paying attention to what's happening right before we reach for that extra cookie or mindlessly scroll through social media.
Exactly. And he suggests asking yourself, what need is this habit fulfilling? Are you stressed, bored, lonely?
Okay.
Understanding the underlying need can help you find healthier ways to cope.
That's so insightful. It's not just about willpower, it's about understanding the why behind our actions.
Right, and once you've identified your triggers and the need you're trying to meet, he suggests finding a replacement habit.
Okay.
So instead of scrolling through your phone when you're bored, maybe you pick up a book or go for a walk.
I love that it's not about depriving ourselves, but about finding more fulfilling ways to meet those needs.
And he emphasizes celebrating those small victories along the way.
Right.
Don't beat yourself up if you slip up, just acknowledge it, learn from it, and keep moving forward.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Precisely. Now, speaking of things that can derail our progress, let's talk about toxic people. Robertson dives into this topic, and I have to say, it's eye-opening.
This is something I've been wanting to talk about. I think everyone has encountered at least one toxic person in their life. So what makes someone toxic?
Robertson talks about those dark triad personalities.
Okay.
Narcissists, Machiavellians, and psychopaths.
Mhm.
But he also broadens the scope to include anyone who consistently brings negativity and drama into our lives.
Like those chronic complainers who suck the energy out of the room.
Yes, or gossips who thrive on drama.
Yeah.
or people who offer backhanded compliments disguised as support.
These are the folks that leave you feeling drained and emotionally exhausted after spending time with them.
Exactly, and Robertson offers some practical advice for dealing with these energy vampires.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do we protect ourselves?
He emphasizes the importance of setting clear boundaries.
Okay.
That might mean saying no more often, limiting contact, or even ending the relationship altogether.
That can be so hard, especially if it's someone you care about.
It can be, but he reminds us that we have a responsibility to protect our own mental and emotional well-being.
Yeah.
We can't change other people, but we can control how we interact with them.
And he also talked about owning our weaknesses, right?
Yes, toxic people often prey on our insecurities. So by acknowledging our own vulnerabilities and working on building our self-esteem, we make ourselves less susceptible to their manipulations.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like putting up an emotional shield.
Exactly. It's about empowering yourself and choosing to surround yourself with people who uplift and support you.
This is all so valuable, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about specific emotions. Robertson dedicates separate chapters to anger, sadness, love, and trust. I'm curious to hear his take on anger. It's often seen as a negative emotion, but he actually presents a different perspective.
He does.
Yeah,
He challenges the idea that anger is always bad.
okay.
In fact, he argues that anger can be a powerful motivator for positive change. Think about the social justice movements that have been fueled by righteous anger.
That's a good point. It's like anger can be a catalyst for action.
Right, and he also points out that anger can help us set healthy boundaries in relationships.
Okay.
If someone violates your boundaries, feeling angry is a natural and appropriate response. It can motivate you to assert yourself and protect your needs.
So it's not about suppressing anger, but about understanding it and channeling it in a healthy way.
Exactly. Of course, he also talks about the destructive potential of anger when it's expressed in unhealthy ways.
Right.
He provides practical tips for managing anger, such as taking time to cool down before reacting, expressing yourself assertively but respectfully, and finding healthy outlets for releasing that pent-up energy.
This is really helpful. It's like we're getting a roadmap for navigating those intense emotions. So what about sadness? That's another emotion that many of us try to avoid.
Right, we live in a culture that often tells us to cheer up and look on the bright side.
Yeah.
But Robertson encourages us to lean into sadness, to allow ourselves to feel it fully rather than pushing it away.
That seems counterintuitive. Why would we want to embrace sadness?
He argues that sadness is a natural part of life.
Okay.
It's often a response to loss, disappointment, or grief. And by allowing ourselves to experience it, we can actually process those difficult emotions and move through them more effectively.
So it's like resisting sadness actually prolongs the pain.
Exactly. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Eventually, it's going to pop back up with even more force.
Yeah.
Robertson suggests creating space for sadness, acknowledging it, and allowing ourselves to cry, journal, or talk to someone we trust.
This is a powerful message. It's like we're giving ourselves permission to be human.
Precisely. And he even suggests that embracing sadness can lead to greater empathy and compassion.
Okay.
When we allow ourselves to feel our own pain, we become more sensitive to the pain of others.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. It's like sadness can actually connect us more deeply to ourselves and others.
And speaking of connection, let's talk about love.
Okay.
Robertson provides a really grounded and insightful perspective on this complex emotion.
Love is often romanticized in our culture.
Right.
But he seems to take a more realistic approach.
He does. He emphasizes that love isn't just a feeling.
Okay.
It's a choice we make, an action we take, a commitment we cultivate.
It's about showing up for the other person even when it's difficult.
Exactly. And he challenges the notion that love should always be easy or effortless.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that healthy, lasting relationships require work, communication, and a willingness to navigate the inevitable ups and downs.
So it's not about finding the perfect person, but about choosing to love and support each other through the good times and the bad.
Precisely. And he also explores the different types of love,
Okay.
from romantic love to familial love to the love between friends. Each has its own unique qualities and challenges.
That makes sense. Love can manifest in so many different ways.
And finally, he talks about trust.
Okay.
He describes trust as a fragile and precious commodity that can be easily broken, but is often difficult to rebuild.
This is so true. Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship.
And he emphasizes the importance of being trustworthy ourselves.
Okay.
That means honoring our commitments, being transparent in our interactions, and following through on our promises.
So it starts with being the kind of person we want to attract.
Exactly. And he also provides guidance on how to assess the trustworthiness of others, recognizing red flags and setting boundaries to protect ourselves from those who might violate our trust.
This is all so valuable. It's like we're getting a crash course in navigating the complexities of human relationships.
And we've only just scratched the surface. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore Robertson's insights on emotional intelligence and how we can use it to build stronger, more meaningful connections with the people in our lives.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Control Your Mind and Master Your Feelings. In the previous parts, we explored so much from the power of mindfulness and the surprising benefits of fear to those practical strategies for breaking bad habits and setting boundaries with toxic people.
And we talked about how to approach those challenging emotions like anger and sadness
Right.
with a new perspective, recognizing them as valuable messengers
Yeah.
rather than enemies we need to suppress.
It's been so eye-opening, but I'm really excited to talk about what Robertson calls the secret weapon of human connection, emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So what exactly is emotional intelligence and why is it so important?
He describes emotional intelligence as the ability to understand and manage our own emotions
Okay.
and to recognize and respond effectively to the emotions of others.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a finely tuned radar for navigating the complex world of human interactions.
That makes sense. It's not just about being smart in the traditional sense,
Right.
but about having that emotional awareness and savvy.
Exactly. And Robertson breaks down emotional intelligence into 5 key components.
Okay.
First, we have self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
which is about understanding our own emotional landscape.
Okay.
What triggers us, how we typically react, and the patterns in our behavior.
So it's kind of like taking inventory of our own emotional strengths and weaknesses.
Yes, it's about recognizing those patterns and understanding how they impact our interactions with others.
Okay.
Next, we have self-regulation,
Okay.
which is the ability to manage our emotions effectively, even in challenging situations.
This sounds crucial for healthy relationships.
It is.
Yeah, it's easy to let our emotions get the best of us, especially when things get heated.
Absolutely. Self-regulation is about having those tools to calm ourselves down when we're feeling overwhelmed, to think before we react, and to choose our words and actions thoughtfully.
So things like deep breathing, mindfulness, and those cognitive reframing techniques we talked about earlier can really come in handy.
Exactly. They're like our emotional toolkit for staying grounded and centered.
Okay.
And then we have motivation, which is the driving force behind our actions and goals.
Okay.
Robertson argues that understanding what motivates us, what truly inspires and energizes us,
Right.
can help us set more meaningful goals and stay committed to achieving them.
It's like finding our why, that deeper purpose that fuels our passions and keeps us moving forward.
Yes, it's about connecting with that intrinsic motivation that comes from within rather than relying solely on external rewards or pressures.
Okay.
And then we come to what I think is the most important component, empathy.
This is the one I've been looking forward to.
Yeah.
It seems like empathy is the key to building genuine connection with others.
Absolutely. Robertson describes empathy as the ability to understand and share the feeling of others.
Okay.
It's about stepping outside of our own perspectives and imagining what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes.
It's about seeing the world through their eyes, feeling their joys and sorrows as if they were our own.
Precisely. And he emphasizes that empathy is not just about feeling sorry for someone.
Right.
It's about truly understanding their experience, even if it's different from our own.
So how do we cultivate empathy? Is it something we're born with or can we learn it?
Robertson believes that empathy is a skill that can be developed.
Okay.
He suggests practicing active listening, paying attention to nonverbal cues, and asking clarifying questions to ensure we're truly understanding the other person's perspective.
It's about putting aside our own assumptions and judgments and really tuning into what the other person is communicating, both verbally and non-verbally.
Exactly. And he encourages us to practice perspective taking even when it's difficult.
Okay.
If someone is expressing an opinion or belief that we disagree with,
Right.
instead of immediately shutting them down or trying to convince them they're wrong,
Yeah.
we can try to understand where they're coming from.
It's about seeking to understand before seeking to be understood.
Exactly. And the last component is social skills.
Okay.
These are the tools we use to navigate social situations effectively,
Right.
to build rapport, and to communicate our needs and desires in a way that fosters connection rather than conflict.
So things like active listening, clear communication, conflict resolution, all those skills that help us build and maintain healthy relationships.
Yes, Robertson provides practical tips for improving our social skills,
Okay.
such as learning to express ourselves assertively, reading nonverbal cues, and giving and receiving feedback constructively.
This is so helpful. It's like he's giving us a roadmap for becoming more emotionally intelligent human beings.
He is, and by developing these skills, we can create more fulfilling and meaningful relationships with the people in our lives.
I love that. And it's not just about romantic relationships.
Right.
Emotional intelligence is important for all kinds of relationships.
It is.
Family, friends, colleagues, even strangers we encounter in our daily life.
You're absolutely right. It's about bringing those skills of self-awareness, empathy, and communication to every interaction, no matter how big or small.
That's a beautiful thought. It's like we're weaving a tapestry of connection through our emotional intelligence.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, developing emotional intelligence is an ongoing journey, not a destination. It's about constantly learning, growing, and refining our ability to navigate the complexities of human emotions and relationships.
I'm so glad we had a chance to dive deep into these concepts. It's given me so much to think about and even more to put into practice.
Me too. And remember, if you want to explore these ideas further, pick up a copy of Control Your Mind and Master Your Feelings by Eric Robertson. It's a treasure trove of wisdom and practical guidance.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive. It's been an incredible journey, and to all of you listening, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world of your own mind and heart.